The USA in War Thunder has a lot of premiums, yeah, I mean a lot, and today we will rank them from S tier to D tier. And just so you know, the ranking will not be based only how strong that plane or tank is. There are other criteria when choosing the best premium, such as how that vehicle functions, if it's easy and straightforward to use, if it has a lineup, if it's unique, if it's strong of course, but mainly if it is a good grinder, because that's the main reason why would you get the premium vehicle. And with that being said, let's start with the ground forces. So to begin, rank 1 and rank 2 premiums are automatically D tier because you can't grind events with them and it's pretty much pointless to spend your GE on them, especially when you can get them from the Warbond shop. And so first tank to rate is the Calliope, and this goes to D tier. The Calliope is basically the 3.7 battle rating Sherman, but with the rockets on top. And even though you have 114 of them, they are not very good. It's fairly tricky to aim them, and you can kill pretty much only light targets with them. So fun tank, but definitely not worth the price. Next up we have the T-14, and this goes to A tier. The T-14 is extremely good, well armored, has stabilized gun, fast reload, good gun depression. The only reason it isn't in S tier is because it doesn't have any lineup to go with it. Still, for any new player out there, this is an amazing premium to get to start learning the War Thunder. Next up we have the Sherman Jumbo Cobra King, and this goes to D tier. The tank itself has a lot of armor and is not that bad, but it has a terrible gun, and to get some research points and silver lions you actually need to kill things, or at least get them critical and get assists, so this is not a vehicle I would recommend spending your money on, especially since you have the very same tank in the tech tree. Next up is the M18 Black Cat, and this goes to C tier. The tank itself is very strong, like all other M18s, but you have a pretty much same tank in tech tree, and 6.0 battle rating isn't exactly great for US. Furthermore, the T-14 is also rank 3 like the M18 Black Cat, and I would definitely prefer the T-14. Next up we have 3 rank 4, 6.3 battle rating tanks. And so firstly, the baby Tutel, the T-28 goes to C tier. This tank is basically the Tutel, but without the side tracks and armor. In return it sits 0.7 BR lower and its armor is even more useful. You are basically immortal from the front. And so yes, this tank is very strong, but it's also extremely slow, and so is it really a good grinder? Well, no. This is definitely not the right choice for premium if you want to grind the US ground tech tree. Next up is the T-20, and this also goes to C tier. My main problem with this tank is that it has a very weak cannon for what it is. This tank uses the same cannon as the M18, but the M18 can flank and will be primarily shooting from the sides. This tank can go up to 56 km per hour, but still you will mostly play this like a medium tank, which it is. And at 6.3 you will get up tiered against Tiger IIs a lot, and like what you want to do with this tank. This is in my opinion almost D tier, but at least it has a good lineup. But then again, do you even want to play this thing in this lineup? Next up is the Super Hellcat, and this goes to B tier. The Super Hellcat is less mobile than the M18, but in return it uses the Pershing cannon, which greatly enhances its firepower. You will still struggle with the Tiger IIs from the front, but the Super Hellcat is in my opinion definitely the best 6.3 premium for US you can get. It's however definitely not the best rank 4 premium, and that's why it only gets B tier. Next up is the M26 T99, and this also gets a D tier like Calliope. The standard Pershing, the M26, is pretty tricky to play, and these are the same shitty rockets as the Calliope uses. Definitely not worth the price, but at least the rockets are better mounted. Next we have the T29, and this gets the S tier. In game we have 3 variants of this tank, the T29, T30 and T-34, and the T-29 is the strongest of them. It has a fairly strong armor and 105mm gun, which can absolutely murder any Tiger II it looks at. It also shoots APC-BC with explosive filler, which is a big plus. This is, in my opinion, a great premium for any player that wants to grind US Tech 3. It's very forgiving even for new players, and I will also soon show you that the 7.0 BR for the US is one of the strongest. Because next up we have the M46 Tiger, and this goes to A tier. The pattern is the jack of all trades. It has a decent mobility, decent armor, decent gun, and it can shoot heat FS, so you can kill any tank you look at, even mouse. And it's the fact that you can deal with any tank you face reliably what makes this tank great. And at 7.0 you also have some great... Wait for me F89B, I will get you soon. Anyway, then we have the T114, and this goes to C tier. This tank is great and bad at the same time. It has a fast-firing recoilless rifle on top, but also limited ammo storage and virtually no armor, so you will get killed even by the machine guns. And planes, of course. It's definitely a good tank, just not for its price, and as an ordinary grinder. Next up we have the T54 E1 and E2, which are very similar. We start with the E2 and this goes to C tier. The T54 E2 plays more like a heavy tank than a medium tank it is, and it boasts a very potent 105mm cannon. And this cannon can shoot a very powerful APDS and heat FS. And then we have the E1 variant, which goes to A tier. E1 variant trades some of its armor and vertical gun depression for a 5-second reload rate because it uses an autoloader. That is a trait I will gladly take, especially because the E1 variant can fire the same very potent shells. Now, do I think this is a good tank for beginners? Well, definitely not, because you don't have a stabilizer and you will get up tier to 8.7 a lot, where you will be clapped by the T55 AM1s. To play this tank you need to understand what you should be doing in different match situations. And to help you with that, you can check my complete tank tutorial. Next up we have the M1128 Wolfpack, and this goes to C tier. The Wolfpack is basically the same vehicle as is in the attack tree, and that doesn't mean it's bad, but if you never played top tier, and if you never played wheeled vehicles with cannon, you will struggle for some time when playing this thing. Now, if you want to play this thing, play it as a mobile sniper. Move to a good position and utilize hold down position, because you have a crewless turret. Main problem of this vehicle is that it is not suited for all of the maps. Next is the M1 KVT, and this goes to B tier. M1 KVT is basically an M1 Abrams, which means it's very good. It has a good reload rate, it has a good mobility, armor can hold off some weaker shots, and that's pretty much it. Then we have the M1A1 Clickbait, and this goes to C tier. It's just an M1A1 Abrams, which means that it's a very powerful vehicle, but it's a top tier, so you will be fighting 12.0s, half of your team will leave after first death, and you will get clapped on by the closer support aircrafts. So as I explained earlier, this doesn't get C tier because it's bad, it gets C tier because it is not unique and it is, in my opinion, a bad grinder. And finally, we have the RDF LT, which gets a B tier. This is basically a weaker version of the HSTVL you have in the tech tree, but you get a bit faster fire rate and much more ammo. It can definitely form a nice pair with the M1A1 Clickbait, but I would still advise you to get the M1 KVT if you want to grind to the top tier. And now on to the airplanes. As before, all rank 1 and 2 airplanes are automatically D tier, and we will start with the BF109, which goes to C tier. Not a bad plane, pretty straightforward to fly, but there are just better options. Next up is the BTD-1, and this gets the B tier. This plane can carry 2 100kg bombs and also has 2 20mm cannons, which means that it can strafe ground targets and even dogfight a bit. Next we have the XP50, and this gets the S tier. This plane is very unique, has an insane climb rate and a very potent armament. It's also quite agile and just fun to play. Great low tier option for a premium plane. Next we have the XP55, and this gets A tier. This plane is also unique, has a very strong armament and a very good top speed. Now on to the rank 4 aircrafts, and we will start with the XA38, which gets the C tier. At first this plane might seem like a fun, because it has a 75mm cannon, but the fact is that this plane is also a big flying target and you will get clapped on by SPAs and enemy fighters. It's not a very good grinder in my opinion. Next we have this version of the P55D Mustang, and this gets a B tier. This Mustang is nothing special among other Mustangs, but it is a very solid energy fighter and boom and zoomer. It can also carry 2 500kg bombs, which should help you with the ground targets. Big plus of this Mustang is that it is BR 4.0, but it sits at rank 4, which is exactly what you want, a low BR at high rank. Next is the Focke-Wulf 190, and this gets the C tier. Not a bad plane with a very potent armament, but the Focke-Wulfs are a bit harder to fly and there are just better options at this rank. And that option is the Spitfire, which gets the A rank. This Spitfire, like all other Spitfires, is pretty easy to fly, has a good climb rate and is extremely agile. Just be careful to not waste your 20mm cannon's ammo. Next is the A2D1 Skyshark, and this gets the B tier. This plane is very good, but sits at 7.0. It has actually 2 engines, 2 propellers as well, 4 20mm cannons, and can carry a large number of ground striking ordnance. My problem with this plane is this. In air-realistic battles you can definitely grind, you can kill some ground targets, but then a lot of the early jets will just dive on you and kill you. And in the ground realistic, well, you are fairly slow, especially when you are carrying those bombs, and easy target for SPAs and other fighters. And so I usually end up using the Sky Knight instead. Then finally we have my all-time favorite F-89B, which gets the S tier. This plane is just a true gem of mine. I recently made a video about this plane, where you can learn everything about it in 3 minutes, but just briefly, this plane is extremely fast, which is making you basically immortal in ground battles, and it has 6 very powerful 20mm cannons. Next up is the F5C, which also gets a C tier. This plane is pretty straightforward to fly, and it's just a fairly agile dogfighter. The M9Es it can carry are pretty much trash, and you will get most of your kills with your guns. Then we have the A10A Thunderbolt, which gets to the A tier. This is a very potent strike aircraft and you can grind a lot with it. And a big plus is that it has this famous 30mm rotary cannon. Just look how this thing is massive. And you know what's else massive? Well, oh no, let's not go there. Then we have the F4S Phantom 2, and this goes to A tier. The F4S Phantom is a complete opposite of the F5C. This thing is just a missile bus. It can carry up to 8 missiles, and that's from where you will get most of your kills. It's in my opinion a good stepping stone into the missile combat. Then we have the AVAB-NA, and this goes to B tier. This plane can carry a large number of ground striking ordnance, and in an air battles it's a close range fighter, mainly because it doesn't have a radar. And now finally the F20A, and you already know for which plane the D spot was reserved. Yes, for this one. I don't have an experience with this plane, but from what I heard, it's just a worse F16. It's also very pricey, and you just don't need rank 8 premium when you can grind the whole tech tree with the F5C. And that will be all for the US. As you can see, the 7.0 BR premiums definitely win this contest, and they are, in my opinion, the best way how to grind the US tech tree.